Tim. It's really great to see all of you right now. I had the opportunity to just present to the Penns Woods West chapter. It's a little chapter of Trout Unlimited just north of Pittsburgh, and I was asked to complete this interview. I'm really honored to even be asked to complete this interview. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background, talk about how Trout and Feather came to be, tell a little bit about fishing and tying, and we'll have a lot of fun with all this. So for starters, I live a little bit north of Pittsburgh with my wife Heather, our son Angelo, and we have a little dog, a little Labradoodle whose name is Isabella, just a cute little dog. Well, and you know, if I have a family like that, it's tough to get out fishing and tying all the time, but I definitely do my best. Well, I started fly tying about 27 years ago. Just loved it. It was all pre that river runs through it and all that fun stuff. And I've really seen just so many transformations of the sport. And gosh, are we lucky to have just incredible sports of fly tying and fly fishing. So as I've kind of progressed through all of this, I decided I wanted to share some of my fly tying skills that I picked up from some of my mentors like John Cammisa, John Dunn, and so many others out there. So I started sharing a few of my thoughts, my skills, some of my flies on YouTube. Those early videos were rough. And as the videos kind of improved and my tying skills improved, because anytime you're tying with the public or tying for the public, you really got to be on your A game. And man, did I kind of learned that early on. But as these videos progressed and as I started accumulating this gigantic collection of videos, I started receiving a lot of emails from people saying that YouTube doesn't have really an easy sort function. So I started talking to family members and I said, you know what, I think I'm going to start my own website. And they asked me what I was selling. And I said, no, I'm not selling anything. This is really just for information and to help so many others out there in the worlds of fly tying and fly fishing. So I kind of put all these names out there and we eventually settled on the name Trout and Feather. I love fly fishing for trout. And my wife, whose name is Heather, she was originally called by my Uncle John the name Feather, and it just stuck. So we thought, geez, let's go with this. So I have this Trout and Feather website. I have all of my videos on that site, and from there it's just kind of taken off. I'm really fortunate and I get asked to speak at various functions all around the country, and I'm happy to do so if my schedule allows. Now to talk about my fishing, I really love fishing that central Pennsylvania area, though if you get me on the Missouri River, you get me on the Delaware River, I'm going to have some fun as well. Now whenever it comes down to the types of fishing I like to do, we're talking about trout. It doesn't matter if it's native, if it's stocked. It doesn't matter if we're talking about these trout that are going to be running up the river or through the streams. That's just kind of that one thing that I always gravitate towards. Will I fish for striped bass, largemouth, any other fish out there? Absolutely. But if push came to shove, it's really fishing for those finicky pressured trout on some of those great waterways like the West Branch of the Delaware River. And when it comes down to fly tying, there are so many different avenues and areas that we can talk about. But some of my first experiences really were gravitating around Catskill dry flies. And I just love to tie those patterns, though I don't fish them as often. I've kind of progressed over the years to the point where I love tying tube flies and these jig nymphs and all these different patterns that are out there. The one area of fly tying that I haven't really taken on yet is salmon flies. It's a little bit of an intimidation factor, but I plan on jumping into that in the next, hopefully 3 to 5 years. I keep asking people about it and they keep telling me, just do it. And I haven't done it yet. So if you're out there and you're thinking about a little nuance in fly tying or fly fishing and you haven't taken that first step, I understand. I'm there with you, and hopefully I jump into those salmon flies sooner than later. Whenever we talk about going fly fishing, there are so many different patterns that are out there, and there's so many common questions. Which patterns do you fish? And if you see all these different fly fishing and fly tying threads out there, there's two that people always say when we're talking about nymphs, and it's the pheasant tail and the hare's ear. And I can tell you, I am definitely guilty as charged. Those are two of my top two patterns that I fish. But I don't fish them and tie them exactly like the ones you always see in the Orvis catalog. Whenever I'm thinking about the pheasant tail, my pheasant tail sometimes will have pheasant for the tail, but more often than not, I'll be fishing Coq de Leon or CDL for the tail. It's a really durable fiber and it doesn't tear easily. I'll still have that pheasant body, I'll have the peacock curl, maybe a little bead, but then I love to add hot spots. We're talking maybe a little bit of hot pink thread by the bead or some fluorescent orange right between the tail and the pheasant body. Now, whenever we jump to these hare's ears, we can make some of those same variations, but the biggest suggestion I have for everybody is make sure you have a slender body whenever you're tying those hare's ears. Don't let them bulk up. You want them buggy, keep it slender. I promise you, you'll catch more fish that way.